What's up, everybody? It's about that time for another edition of the Crew Radio Show. I'm Kevin Swan, co-host of the show, and the crew are professional people who are also friends that come together to talk about the things you want us to talk about. We talk about it all, and we don't hold back. So come on and join us for another edition of the Crew Radio Show. What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Crew here on WHOV 88.1 FM. We here on our social media outlets. Glad that y'all are checking us out. It's still the barbershop.
Yes.
And it's not that we want it to be the barbershop, but again, we're asking for your prayers for Alvian and for her family. As she's still dealing with the transition of her mother. And so she told us to tell you, thank you for all the calls and the messages she has received. She greatly appreciates it. She'll be back soon. And so, Alvian, take your time. We want you to get well and heal up. And then also for Sia, she's still, as we say, fighting that good fight. So it's us back in the barbershop.
Yeah.
Ton, Jay, what's good, y'all?
Hey, so let me go ahead and acquiesce to something.
Do you know what that means?
Yes, I do.
Can you spell it?
It doesn't matter.
Don't use words.
It doesn't matter.
ACQ.
So, about a year ago, we were having a conversation on air, and my brother here, Pastor Law,
is that his name still?
Prophet Anton Bell, said something. He said something to me, and I misinterpreted, and I kept the ball rolling. I'm going to say publicly to my brother, I do apologize. I had my wife looking at him sideways.
Sure did. Had her looking at me sideways. You were instigating it, by the way, but that's okay.
Look at, he like, what? Huh?
Kevin and Jay are the little brothers, and Kev acts just like a middle child. What you would think a typical middle child acts like. He is that little child, and that's the baby brother over there, and he acts like a baby brother. But this joker right here will keep an instigation going. Can I just tell you that?
I didn't.
And then you have your people coming up to me.
So, speaking of that,
yes,
at work I was saying something, and somebody came behind me and said, "What would Pastor Law do if he heard you saying that?" I said, excuse me?
Because I'm the enforcer.
I had to call him. He missed my call, but I had to call him like, I'm at work. Let that man do what he do. I'm grown. I ain't scared of Pastor Law. But to everybody, I do apologize. I misrepresented what my brother said. So on the record, he did not say I was intellectually challenged.
Yes.
He said what I was doing.
Yes, was intellectually challenged. Yes, I did. Then watch this one. See, watch. Here he come.
Let's keep on with the show.
Let's keep on going with the show. Okay, all right.
I vehemently disagree with that assessment.
Whatever.
You know good as well. It won't know a misinterpretation of what you said.
It was.
He trying to clean it up now.
He trying to clean it up, but that's all right. The Lord knows.
The Lord knows.
The Lord knows.
So look, y'all, we here, and all jokes aside, it's a lot of stuff that's going on. And a lot of people are
feeling the heat. No. Let's just say what it is.
Yeah.
They feeling that heat.
They feeling the heat. Right?
They feeling it because I went to the grocery store and I felt that heat. I was mad. 3 bags, over $100.
Yeah, man.
I felt that.
And the thing is that everybody's upset at the president. And I said this to our congregation one Sunday. Why are you mad at him? What you mad at him for?
Because he showed enough told you
he ain't doing nothing different than what he said he was going to do.
He said he was going to do it.
And he doing it.
With the one exception. He did say he was going to lower inflation. He did lie about that. But everything else, he said he was going to do.
He came back and retracted and said,
it's going to take some time.
Yeah, take some time.
Oh, he did?
He did.
Because sometimes when he comes on, I just shut the channel off.
But, so I don't even want to go there with him.
Okay.
Because I think it's easy, and this is what we do in our community, if we're going to be honest.
Point fingers.
We point fingers. It's easy to scapegoat people. So we'll use him as the scapegoat. But the question we need to ask, Tom, why so many more of us vote for him? Why did 90 million people not vote at all? See, these are the questions we need to be asking. But here we are. And one of the potential fallouts of him being in office is now there's considerable debate about the relevancy of the Department of Education.
That's right.
And can I give you context real quick? The problem with that is you can be the president and have those issues. But when you, the president, have those issues and you have the Senate, the House, and the Supreme Court that's basically going to just rubber stamp anything you do, that becomes a major, major concern.
It
Very
does.
problematic.
The only hope to come against this stuff, honestly, is lawsuits. And you know this.
Well, here's the problem. He still has the Supreme Court.
He does, but it stalls or delays the process, right? So you go into, you have an injunction, you temporarily suspend whatever action, you get a judge that Biden appointed or somebody else appointed that's in the favor of seeing it differently. And that's the only shot you got at this point,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
But this is where we are. And now, Jay, you're in education. You see it every day. Now there's question about defunding, getting rid of. Now, to be fair, this has been going on for some time.
Yes.
This ain't nothing new. But it's very real now that it could happen. And I think now the question is, well, what's going to be the impact? Because as you, Ton, know, and Jay, anything that happens in the nation happens more severely in the black community.
Yeah, if it's a cold for them, it's pneumonia for us.
Correct. So it's going to be huge for us. And for those of you who don't understand, we're going to give it to you why the possibility of the Department of Education being terminated, what impact it could have on black kids. Now, we already know that black kids are struggling in school.
I see it every day.
Can we just start there? We already know that. We already know that in the area where we live, black kids are behind.
Yeah.
And we already know that since COVID, which was a complete mess, that kids was getting credit and in bed, not doing no work,
Not doing
and trying,
anything.
and we fell even further behind.
Yep.
And now you're talking about dismantling the Department of Education. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know what the potential impact of that could be, we're going to give you 5 things that could help to understand why this is so major in our community, things that we don't even pay attention about. Number 1 is the disparities in graduation rates. And so what we know is that without federal oversight, that's what the Department of Education is doing. Many people might say, well, what he's actually doing is he's moving things back to the states. You can't count on these states, man, because all states don't govern equally.
That part.
Right.
That's why you have a Department of Education.
Yeah,
Right?
that part. And unfortunately, where you're in the South, that's where you're going to see the really biggest ripple effect
Yes.
with the black community.
Mississippi, we're calling you on U line 1.
Alabama, Louisiana, even in Kentucky and Tennessee, you're going to see the disparity, but definitely in the Mississippi area.
Absolutely. Disparity in graduation rates. So without federal oversight, schools in predominantly black communities may struggle to maintain or even improve graduation rates, which are already lower compared to other ethnic groups on a national level. Jay, you said you already see it on a daily basis, right? And you already know because you're at the lower end. And we know, and we've had this conversation before, prisons, government determines prisons based on 3rd grade reading level. Tell me what you see now at the lower level in terms of reading comprehension for our kids.
The word M-Y, that spells my. Most kids can't even read that. The word, and I'm not making this up. I had a meeting today with our reading specialist, and you have kids that are in 1st and 2nd grade, they can't read the word my. So let alone you put full sentences together with subject and verb and adjectives and pronouns. They struggle. So you see them acting out, getting suspended, fighting, doing all kind of weird stuff because they don't have that basic skill. Now, we're not talking about math and all the other kind of stuff. We're just talking about reading.
Question. So are we talking about young people who have intellectual issues?
No.
So these are just young people
These
who
young
just
people across the
never,
board.
so these are young people who just never develop the skill of reading.
For
I don't understand this, Tom.
But you also got the phonics of being able to know the letter A, what sound that makes.
But again, they never develop that skill
Yeah.
just because no one taught them or they never caught on. But they have the ability, they just never learn.
I wouldn't even say they have the ability because they can't do it. So.
No. I'm saying intellectually.
Oh, intellectually, they're sound.
Yeah, intellectually, they could do it if they were taught it or if they caught it.
Yeah, there are no disabilities. There are no limited faculties. They just don't have that skill.
So what grade are we talking about?
We
said
talking
first and
about, we
second.
talking about first and second.
So-
but
I
it starts in kindergarten.
In kindergarten.
That's my point.
I struggle with this. You and I are right there. We're here. We're here.
Yeah.
But that's a parent failed them. That's the parent failed them. And I'm gonna tell you how I know. I know that from a personal situation. My son had a speech delay, and so because of that, when he was born, he had an oxygen issue deficiency, and so it created a speech delay, and it created like a delayed learning. He's a straight A student today. At age 16, he'll be 17 in March, but he's a straight A student today. But that started in kindergarten, because when he went to a new school in kindergarten, the kids already knew how to read. It was an advanced school. They already knew how to read, and he was coming behind the curveball. Matter of fact, they say day one he has to have a tutor and a speech therapist. Day one, so that he can catch up. He started learning his ABCs and started learning how to the fundamentals of reading. And some parts were hard. And because it was hard, he started talking in class. He started playing in class. It don't start out fighting. It started out with just being a distraction. It just starts out, I'm going to do something different because this is too hard. And I knew what was going on. So I had a conversation with, because he brought, you know how to do the green, the yellow, and the red for behavior when they was back in the day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
He was on red.
He brought home a yellow.
Okay.
Because he wasn't a mean kid.
Okay.
He was just talking and being a class clown, basically. And we had a conversation, and I said, son, we can't do this. I need you to focus because you're behind, and I need you to catch up. So we had a very good, loving conversation, hugged it out the whole nine. Dude brought out another yellow. So I had to have a different tone. I said, bruh, let me talk to you for a second. I said,
let me talk to you.
Bruh, let me holler at you for a minute. I said, we ain't doing this. Your mama and I, we go to work. This is your job. I need you to handle this. Now, I'm telling you right now, you bring home another yellow, it's going to be a different situation because I'm going to tattoo your tail. So it's going to be one of those things.
The mere fact that you interceded on that yellow, we have parents and we send double reds home and we don't get the folders back.
That's why I said it's the parents. Where are the parents? Because it started young. It started young. Homeboy brought home a red.
Oh, it's lights out there.
He escalated.
He escalated. He brought home a red. So I don't know what they was discussing in class that particular day that just set him off, and he brought home a red. I told his mama, you may want to go run some errands because I don't want to hear no noise. It's going to be what it's got to be. And so I said, you may want to, I said, the brother then brought home a red. I just need you to go ahead and run some errands.
You
and it's
sit
going to
down
be
on some errands.
Come on. And you know, I don't beat clothes that I paid for. So
Listen.
strip all that down, bro.
Listen.
How about this? He got it. He started hitting it. He started understanding it's a priority to us. And because it's a priority to us, it will be. There is no, I will think about it. It will be a priority for you. And there shall be swift and severe consequences if you don't understand it. And so I'm trying to understand how our kids in the first and second grade can't read my, and how our kids fighting instead of someone pulling them to the side. I'm not talking about the teachers, because it starts at home. It really does. It has to be a priority. And I know some of these parents may not be able to read themselves. So because they have not put education as a priority for themselves, or someone didn't teach them, it's kind of hard to do that for your kid. But I'm like, I want better for my kid.
Man, I ain't trying to hear that.
I want better. I mean, I want better
sorry.
for my kid.
Listen, man. Listen,
I'll give them that.
I ain't giving them that.
I'll give
This
them
ain't
that.
the season for that. I'm sorry. Because they're going to sit down and watch porn with them.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have
Smoke
out in the
weed with them
street,
too. That's
Smoke weed.
Smoke weed.
They're
with
watching porn together at 2, 3, 6, 7 years old. They can't read.
them. Can't read.
And my question, Jay, though, is even if, yes, the parents, is there not, do kids just automatically pass now?
Yeah, they move them along.
So there's no
They move along.
there's no recourse. There's no, and
No.
but see, somebody hearing
But
this,
the school now, I can only speak for what I do professionally and personally, we will have retention like meetings with the parents. But if the parents disagree, move on along. And sometimes you have certain people that want to move regardless. So you have a kid that gets 12th grade and can't read, and they can't write.
So are you saying to me that you're saying to me that if a school wants to retain a student, they cannot if the parent says
if the parent
pass them
disagree
on at any grade level?
For the most part.
See, that's foolishness.
That's ridiculous.
That's foolishness.
But see, this also justifies, Todd, for some people, why the Department of Education needs to be dismantled.
That's correct.
This right here.
That's foolishness.
Why are you passing somebody that clearly?
Hold on, but then it's like you can't get rid of what does it take? Throw out the water with the baby.
Yes.
When you do that, then you lose out on a lot of other programs like Title I funding, all other kind of stuff.
I understand
you
that.
Take that from us, and that's the give and take.
But how are you helping a child by passing them along when you know you are creating an ill-prepared adult? What do you think they're going to do when they get to 11th grade, 12th grade, or get out of school and they have a diploma, but they can't read a job application? What do you think they're going to do?
All I could do is tell y'all, as real educators, we do the very best we can with what we got.
No,
that 7.25 we got, we do the very best
my
we can.
fingers aren't pointing at you guys. My fingers always got to start at home.
It starts at home, but it's also a cocoon of services at home and in the schoolhouse, right? So if you have the parents not caring, and then you got the teachers that have to teach to a curriculum and not to the kids, you know, a lot of teachers they feel so pressured to stay on that curriculum or stay with those SOLs, and they know that kid can't read, but they got to keep that pace up. They can't stop.
So is SOLs, for people who don't understand, standards of learning?
Yeah.
Right. These are requirements that each student should be able to master.
Yeah, it starts in second grade, I believe.
At a particular grade level.
Mm-hmm.
But you're telling us at the same time, even if a student don't pass the SOLs, they can still move on.
In some cases.
Well, here's the thing. You said it starts in second grade. You should be reading before second grade. You
should
be reading in kindergarten.
You should
So
be.
what about the first grade kindergarten teachers?
But
What
even
about
before
those?
that, pre-K.
Pre-K.
But again, this is our community. We don't always start at pre-K.
But
And then
even if you don't, I'm still saying if you went to kindergarten, you're not taking an SOP. So
SOL.
Or SOL, whatever is standard practice, whatever. it's some standard. So you're not taking one of those. So my question is, why aren't they being challenged to read at that grade level?
Because now, as an educator, again, I'm a school counselor, but being a black man in education, I'm not just a school counselor. I'm a security guard. I'm a teacher. I'm a counselor. I'm sometimes pseudo admin. You have to. We talked about this on one of our old shows, and Tom, you got upset with us.
Compromise?
Not so much compromise. You got so many different things going on because this kid, like you say, if you don't have that support at home, the kid gonna act out. So now that one kid is acting out, and then that's trickling on to other kids. So now I can't fully teach because now I got all these behavior issues.
So
in
the
my class.
solution is to move the kid along. That's the answer.
This is foolish.
That's what you're saying. The answer is,
first of all,
you just want peace.
yeah, pass the kid on to the problem to the next.
You just want peace.
I mean, that's not my philosophy, but
That's what's going on. You just want peace.
All right, so let's go to number 2. So we clearly see that, again, without federal oversight, this could go way left even more than what it's going now.
Oh,
right?
if we lose federal oversight, and now they get the power back to the states, when you have most states that don't really curtail or acquiesce to us, and I'm talking about blacks and people of color and low-income families that don't have the resources and don't have that kind of connections, they're going to be further than behind.
I got a question. Here's my problem. If you're already doing this and you're supposed to have this federal oversight, I mean, what you going to be missing? Because clearly it ain't working. Clearly there is no true oversight.
It's working for some.
How so?
It's working for some. Now you have the outliers, but you also have some of them that it is working for. And when you take those supports from those, like the IEP, individualized,
We're gonna come to that.
You know, you have that.
Hold on. But I guess Jay,
you can't get rid of it.
Jay, I guess what we're asking is how much of what you do on a day-to-day basis is federal mandated versus state, because SOL is state mandated.
Or impacted by federal
Correct.
rules
How
and
much?
regulations.
Well, we're talking about more so. Okay, now I'm not well versed in all that. What I can speak to is the programs that the federal agencies give us to be able to support our kids.
Give you the
As far-
monies to do.
Yeah. So as far as what the federal programs mandate us to do,
Is Title I federal?
yeah, we get federal funding.
Free and reduced lunch, is that federal?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again,
But again, Katan looking at me sideways as far as what the federal agencies mandate, as far as you gotta teach this, that, and the third. A lot of that still is funneled to the states.
to the states.
But that support that we get for family engagement specialists, additional restorative counselors, additional IAs, additional behavioral support specialists, that stuff is federal
Yeah.
for
Okay.
the most part.
So what we're seeing is, without that federal oversight, federal dollars, federal support, potentially speaking, graduation rates in the African American community will only drop,
Yeah.
not increase.
Okay, but we got to stop right here. We just got to stop right here, because I can't look at graduation rates as a badge of honor if you're telling me you're graduating people who can't read. I'm not understanding how that is a systemic issue. That's a systemic issue. You're graduating hundreds and thousands. I'm talking about, we're looking at statewide.
Yeah.
You're thousands of students who cannot read. They're ill prepared to be able to join the workforce, have a career that is productive. And so what do you think they're going to do? They're going to turn to illegal means. They're going to find a way to support themselves one way or the other, whether it be through illegal means, or they're going to be somebody chick on the pole, or they're going to be somebody gigolo, or they're going to be somebody pimp. They're going to find a way to make that money because they got to survive. They got to survive.
They do. And Tom, the point Jay is making is, without federal oversight, what standards that exist now, even though they might not be what we consider to be acceptable, will be even less without federal oversight. Which means that, again, whatever happens in America happens more in our community. You would have more kids that can't read, more kids that may not graduate, more dropouts, potentially. Which leads me to number 2, which is a huge one in our community, really what the Department of Education is about, and that is access to special education.
Yeah, that's a big one.
This is the big one for us. The Department of Education plays a crucial role in ensuring that students with disabilities receive appropriate services. So without that, Black students with disabilities might face greater challenges in accessing the support that they need. Correct. So Jay, you definitely are with IEPs, 504 plans. So for people who don't know what they are, explain that to them.
So the IEP is the individualized educational plan. It's more academics. The 504 is more of a behavior type plan. And people don't understand, like, IEPs, that they are written for people who have autism, Asperger's, anything that prohibits them from being able to do what they need to do academically, any kind of impedance. Dyslexia is a big one that we see in our community that's undiagnosed for a really long time. If you have different mental health disorders that interfere, you get an IEP. And if you remove that from the school, 95% of our students with disabilities learn in our public school. 95. And back when I grew up, people with disability were like the severely intellectually delayed. They were like, making noises and all, stuff like that, respectfully. Now the disabled or the persons with disabilities could just be that quiet one that can't, like in your case, Tom, your son, he had a speech impediment. He needed OT, stuff like that. So when you have stuff like that, typically Tom's son, if this wasn't in place, wouldn't be able to have those services. And here's nothing. IEPs aren't just for you on the secondary level. It follows you all the way through college if you keep the IEP. So you go to a four-year or another institution, you could have the IEP follow you into your collegiate life, and you dismantle that, and that there is no place for that. Then the child who has a disability, I mean, where they go?
And it's not even, again, like you're saying, like most people think of disabilities, you think physical limitations or mental disability. A lot of kids got ADHD, bro.
And that's a big one.
That time the
ADHD,
line in school
ODD.
for Ritalin. Let's just be honest up here. You know what I'm saying?
I'm still trying to understand that and wrap my brain around
listen,
that.
man.
Because you think ADHD wasn't around when we were growing up?
It sure was.
And so how did the parents handle ADHD?
How did the teachers handle ADHD?
How did the teachers handle ADHD? Yeah.
They can't handle it the same.
And I'm trying to understand why it's
because
such.
of the parents.
Yeah.
You can't handle the same because of the way the parents do.
I'm not understanding that.
The same parent that can't read will get upset with you and curse you, smooth out. How do I know? I got a T-shirt because it's happened to me so many times. When you call them on their stuff respectfully, say, hey, if you had a little more structure at home so that the child can get you set, because they with you majority of the time. When they come with us, they can have that same structure. Who are you to tell me what to have for my child? It's like, oh, okay, cool. Now your child is struggling. Now you're looking at me saying, why can't you do more for my child? Like, it can't be, if the student sees the parent disrespecting the adult, the teacher, the counselor, the principal, the kid do the same thing.
But see, but yes, and we agree to all of that. And I think the argument that y'all are making, though, is that really no matter what you put in place, this is what you're saying. Because I'm looking at you. No matter what's put in place, if the parent ain't gonna step up, it ain't gonna make a difference.
If you got a trifling tail parent, unfortunately, it is going to showcase itself in their children. It's unfortunate. One way or the other, it can be in behavior, it could be in trauma, it can be in all types of ways, but it's going to showcase itself in their children.
Which is why you need more supportive governance than less, because you have such a lack of duty at home. If you're going to also have a lack of duty at school and protections are reduced or eliminated,
we need some help, Tom. Don't take everything.
That's the problem.
We need some help, Jack.
They already need,
or they're gonna be coming to see you.
It really is the opposite. The opposite should be happening, Tom. In our opinion, Department of Education really should be doing more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about dismantling it. What little that they're doing,
you dismantle it with no alternative.
So let's break that down. Let's go ahead on and break it down. Let's keep it real with the audience because y'all need to know.
This is the barbershop.
Here's the barbershop. The reality of it is the Department of Education makes no money. But building prisons make you plenty of money.
I can't tell my student loans, man. They getting some money from me for that.
Building prisons make money.
It's profitable.
That is profitable. That's why they will sit there and they will look at a child who can't read at third grade, and they said, we're going to build a bed just for you.
That's crazy.
And we're going to calculate how many beds we're going to need in this new facility that we're going to build just for you. And for those, before you get on your high horse and say about the mass incarceration and about all the other things that goes on systemically, point that finger back at yourself as well and say, what are you doing in your home to make sure that you're at least trying to position your young people to be successful? Because again, I grew up straight up poor, dirt poor, but my mom said, not in my house. You're not defined by your environment. So she did search warrants in our house. She would go through our drawers. She would go through underneath the bed, in the closet, wherever she had to go to make sure not in her house. She ain't just said, she meant it. And she said, go down there if you want to, you're going to stay down there. She meant that thing. And so before we point the finger at the system, we got to ask ourselves, what are we doing as a community? What are we doing as individual parents? What are we doing as aunties and uncles and cousins and thems and all that? What are we doing to try to make sure we at least position them? And then as we're doing that, because you can walk and chew gum at the same time. So as we're doing that, what are we doing to fight the systemic issues as well?
I agree. 100%. But can I say something real quick?
Right.
But Tom, I think there's also a segment that we're not talking about here. There are some parents out here who love their kids, who are trying to do right. They just can't handle their kids, man.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of parents out here that are screaming for help. They don't know what to do with their kid, man. So we can't neglect the fact that, it's easy to say for us, it's the parent, it's the parent, it's the parent. But the reality is there are parents that are trying.
They try too late, though.
They may try too late. right?
But Kev, you got to realize the seeds that you sow in your
yes.
kids, they are going to at some time reproduce.
It ain't always the
itself.
seeds in the house. Sometimes it's the seeds in the environment.
Okay, but how about this? When a child is young, because he makes an invalid point. Jay making a valid point that sometimes they try too late. When a child is young, who controls where that child go?
I agree with you.
Who controls what that child watch?
I agree with you.
Who controls what that child eats?
And here's what I'm saying to you. The parent does all of that. At some point, that kid got to leave the house.
Correct.
Right.
But
Stay with me.
I say young.
Stay
I'm
with
not
me.
saying
Even
older.
young. At a certain point, they got to leave the house to go to school.
Yeah.
Right? Now they got a disability at school. Right? Maybe you deal with it at home however you deal with it. But in a structured environment, it has to be dealt with a certain way. And what we're seeing here is that if certain departments are eliminated, then you're leaving it up to the states to determine how the structure in the classroom gonna go.
See,
We already talked about Mississippi, bro. We already talked about the South.
See, I guess part of my struggle with what you're saying is this. And here's the thing. I am all for the Department of Education. I think we need to make it stronger and we need to make it better so that it can have greater levels of oversight.
I
So
agree.
let me start there before I make my next statement. The problem I struggle with is when we are putting the emphasis on the teacher and the environment that the teacher is conducting. Yes, overall, I think that the teacher should be diligent in making sure their environment is conducive to learning. But you got to remember, the teacher is working with what is giving to that teacher that particular year.
And hopefully they're equipped to do it.
Yeah, and hopefully they're equipped to do it. But I'm just going to hope that teachers are getting the training that they need and are equipped to do whatever that they're doing concerning teaching. Let's start with teaching. I'm not talking about the other stuff. I'm just saying teaching, because that's what they're supposed to be there for.
What?
To be teachers.
What class in college?
The problem, because you about to talk about something else. The problem is you got teachers now who have to control behavior more than teach. And they don't go to school for that. They, like you about to say, what class that you have in college that's going to teach you how to be a referee from a fight?
Classroom management.
That's going to teach you how to be a referee of a fight. That's going to teach you how to train your kids, how to run out certain rooms when there's a potential shooter on campus. They're not trained these things. And I mean, I'm sure they get training when they get on the job, but they should not have to train for these elements. And the behavior issue, that starts in the home. I was more scared of going home because I did something stupid in class than just dealing with a teacher. But you got parents that go up there, like you said, curse the teacher out, curse the guidance counselor out, curse the principal out, and they child could be 100% dead wrong.
Most times they are.
And most times they are.
They are.
So what do you do about that? What's the teacher supposed to do about that? I can't touch the child.
Correct.
I can't curse out the child.
We agreed on.
I can't even correct the child. Sometimes I can't even say, Johnny, take a seat. I just got to deal with it. And then when the kids nowadays, they're so emboldened, they will slap and punch and stomp teachers. And I'm talking about grown size kids beating up teachers. So, and then you have the other kids, they're videoing it and they're putting it on sites as a laughing matter.
You talking about older kids? I know.
I'm talking about I'm not talking about no older kids, because the kid that was in Rich Neck, that child was 6.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom, what you also know is that statistically speaking, the majority of inmates in prisons have some sort of mental health or some sort of disability. This is true. This is fact. You now limit the access to special education services. You could potentially be seeing a whole lot more on your caseload than you're seeing now.
Or I'm going to see more.
This is what we're saying. Nobody's disagreeing with the parent. Nobody's disagreeing with the state of affairs that our kids are being raised in. We agree with all of that. We agree with the fact that parents got to be better. But the ripple effect, when you eliminate oversight, what it means to our community that's already fractured.
It's catastrophic.
It is,
It's
man.
catastrophic. Like even just looking at this article that talks about how the Department of Education administers various programs, including the Title I funding for high need schools. People think when they hear Title I, that means poor. It doesn't mean poor. It just means it gives more opportunities. Like, again, I speak about family engagement specialists. The one I work with at my school, to help aid the kids who can't read, she's sending home packets that have different phonics skills, different enrichment, flashcards, this, that, and the third, that that the teacher may not have time to do. This additional support that is federally funded is giving more support. You take that away, these kids, man, they in trouble.
I used to be a part of a program time when I graduated from college. It was at Hampton University.
I thought you were going to say you was a part of the program when you were a kid.
No.
I'd have been like, now that makes sense.
When I graduated from college, my first job was with a program called Educational Talent Search. This is a federally funded program on college campuses that works with high school students, first generation, right? Making sure they have opportunities to go to college because nobody in their family's ever gone.
Correct.
Right? You start taking away these programs, now you're limiting possibilities for kids.
Does Healthy Family fall into something like that as well?
It could. It doesn't fall into the program I was in.
Right.
But that's an example,
Yeah,
right?
it depends.
You start limiting access for opportunities.
Head Start.
Educational Talent Search, Upward Bound, Student Support Services once they get in college. All
Before and aftercare program.
that stuff is the new Jim Crow, bro. There's
no disagreement. Let's just put it out there. There's no disagreement that we want the Department of Education to be in place and even stronger and have greater oversight.
But I think people need to understand how it's going to impact. People see the news and they hear all this kind of stuff.
But you know the biggest issue with everything we saying, how people they see that and they hear that, it's like the preachers that's crying loud on that mountain, but people feel like it's not gonna affect me, it's not gonna hurt me, it's not gonna do this to my family, and when it does, it's way too late. It's too late.
It's like this election. This election, people are like, it didn't matter. You know, so 90 million people stayed at home. You got people now who are looking at how just this last 4 weeks he's been in office.
It feels like a year.
How it has tremendously impacted. People have lost jobs. White farmers are now saying, if I had known, I would. I'm like,
why did you know?
He told you, bruh.
He gave you the playbook.
He gave you Project 2025. He told you.
I just don't have no.
You got Latinos. I saw a picture of a man in a Duragone Trump supporter.
Latinos for Trump.
He had what was it? Latinos for Trump. Yeah. And they had him in handcuffs. They were taking him off. They were rounding him up. ICE had him. And so it's like, and you don't want to laugh at it, but it's like, I do want to laugh at you because I'm like, you idiot. Why would you vote for something? You voted against your own interest. Why would you vote against your own interest? But a lot of these individuals voted through the lens of their own prejudices, and it caught up with them. It just caught up with them.
What about our own? That voted for him.
We voted through our ignorance because a lot of times we think because we're harder on each other than sometimes we are on other people. Because I got a question. Why is it that you had an assortment of black men, African-American men, who were saying, I want to see what Kamala Harris is going to do for black men? No one, not one person said the same thing to Donald Trump. They put that requirement on her, but they did not put that requirement on him. And you already knew he said, I want to give full immunity to all police officers. Well, who you think that's going to impact the most? Who you think that's going to impact? I want to get rid of the Department of Education. Well, who you think that's going to impact the most? I am going to restrict entitlements. Now, that's going to impact them more because contrary to popular belief, there's more Caucasians on entitlement programs than there are African Americans. But nonetheless, we're going to still feel it. We're going to absolutely feel it.
But Ton, see, I don't have sympathy, man.
Oh, I don't either.
I'm sorry.
I kind of do though.
I don't. Why?
I kinda
Because
do.
if somebody tell you what they're gonna do, why are you surprised that they're doing it? Like I don't understand.
I feel bad for the people who are collateral damage. Now, I feel compassionate for them because they may have gone out and voted. They may have gone out and told their friends and family, and yet they're getting caught in the crosshairs of all that's going on. I feel very bad for them because at the end of the day, I spent $130 at the grocery store with 3 small bags. Now, mind you, some of them were batteries and stuff because of the storm is coming up. But still, there were 3 small bags and eggs that cost $10. I'm still mad about that. As much as I like eggs, I'm mad about that. And as much as I bake, but no, I digress. But anyway, who you think can afford to go to the grocery store and spend that kind of money on a consistent basis, and you are working, making minimum wage?
But that's another show. But you also think about, I think not to Swan's point, we also do a lot of this stuff to ourselves. You have us that we didn't vote, and we said our vote was inconsequential.
That's what they said.
And now we have what we have, and you still have people saying that it's just not that big of a deal. We'll be fine. Okay. I serve a God that's going to provide, but I feel like the Israelites with the lamb's blood. I need some help.
Well, look, man, I'm not trying to create no controversy here, but I think for a lot of people, they voted this way. I want to say this as respectfully as I can, because in their minds, the fear of the LGBTQI community uprising, transgenders, kids in sports, all the other stuff, this whole fear thing of him talking about Haitian immigrants eating dogs, all of that stuff.
He played on our fears.
Exactly right. And the fears that he played on, you know, your kids ain't gonna be safe, your communities ain't gonna be safe, your girls can't play sports fairly. All of that superseded all the other stuff.
But you had members of that community who voted for him in a great number, because I remember seeing something on Twitter where this, I don't know if they were a couple or they were just in that community, but nonetheless, they were saying that they were gay and they were proud Trump voters. And I'm saying, you're voting against your own interests. You don't have any idea what he's about to do to your community.
Well, again, when you're only focusing on the price of eggs at the moment, you're looking at eggs and gas, and in your mind, a lot of people are saying, well, I could buy less now than I could 4 years ago. At least when I got a refund check, it was his name on it. You had all that stuff going. And then let's not forget, was America really ready to embrace a black woman to lead the country?
Oh, that's the main issue.
Correct.
That's the main issue.
So now we got what we got.
We got what we got.
And so now you have potentially, and again, we're talking about what could be the impact of the dismantling of the Department of Education, higher disparity rates in graduation. So if less black kids are graduating, that means they're more likely to have a propensity to crime or be raised in a lower socioeconomic environment.
That part.
Number 2, limited access to special education services, which most of our kids have ADHD, some form of special needs.
Something with a D in it. ADHD, ODD.
If you start eliminating or reducing services for special education, think about what could potentially happen in the classrooms now if that isn't managed.
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that so many or a great number have all of these diagnoses in our community. What's going on in our community that makes us so much more susceptible?
Well, maybe not everybody is special needs. Maybe they got identified as such, and that's a whole other conversation.
That is a conversation, because I was in that category.
Because maybe your disciplinary action, and I can't control you, you can't act right. Now I'm categorizing you as
I was a good student.
You was crazy.
I was actually, I was a quiet student.
You was enraged.
You said I was enraged. I didn't get that till later. But I was a quiet student, but I was bored. And because I was bored, they wanted to put me in a special education class.
Because they don't know what to do with a big black kid.
Yeah, but
right?
I was...
And this is the point,
It's crazy.
Or a little one, because when I was in kindergarten, I didn't talk. And they were like, he has to be limited because he won't talk.
They thought
see, here we go. See, now, I apologize at the top of the show. And then here we go right here. Here we go right here. Michelle, this husband when I see you. This is a mess.
You walked into that one. You walked into that one, Jay.
Hey,
Jay,
did you see his eyes when I said it? He was like,
Jay, you walked right into that one, man.
Let's keep moving. I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to play. I can't wait till this show is over.
It was like he was mute.
You walked right into that one, man.
These jokers, they are tickled.
I'm trying to help you, man. So number 3, y'all, there's 5 of these, right?
That's 5.
Number 3 is civil rights protections, and this is something that we don't talk about.
Yes,
so Tom, maybe you can address this. The Department Office for Civil Rights investigates complaints of discrimination in schools. Mm-hmm. So without this oversight, incidents of racial discrimination and racial harassment that goes on might go unchecked.
Equal treatment too.
Well, the Justice Department can still investigate any type of civil rights violations. So it doesn't have to necessarily be navigated through the chain of the Department of Education and then go to the Justice Department. The Justice Department can still do that. However, when you have a department that specializes with discrimination in education, then you're going to have a workforce that is going to be more equipped to spot it, identify it, and then know the remedies that's going to be needed in order to rectify the situation. So if you remove that, then now you got the Justice Department, and they're going to treat that issue like they would treat any other issue because they're going to deal with it in a general basis versus a more specified expertise.
Yeah, and so for us where we live, the majority of the school division is predominantly black. So you may say, well, this might not impact us here. It could. But if you think about black kids in, let's say, rural environments, this could be huge, potentially, right? Number 4 is federal student aid. Now, this is something that we don't talk about.
That's huge. That's huge.
And this is going to be huge. This is where we're going to see the impact.
And this is what I'm worried about for Layla.
Black students rely on federal student aid to pursue higher education. Most of us cannot afford college expenses on our own. So with the absence of the Department of Education, that could potentially lead to reduced access to financial support, making it harder for black students to afford and even enroll in college.
And this is what Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was talking about when she said, what you want to do is create the unlevel playing field at a greater rate, increase the gap between the haves and the have-nots, because what you have discovered is when we get the education that we need, then we know how to do more, do it twice as good, be twice as better, because we're taught, it's ingrained in us as kids, you have to be twice as good in order for it even to be a level playing field. So what you'll do is you'll say, well, first of all, you can't go to predominantly white schools because we're going to get rid of affirmative action or anything that even looks like affirmative action. And then what we'll say is, on the other hand, we're not going to fund HBCUs because we don't want you to be why should you get any preferential treatment in HBCUs, because that's a DEI. So we're not going to fund that. And what they're trying to do is shortcut or cut down the number of qualified applicants who they know will be able to compete, if not only compete, but supersede any of their white counterparts, because again, we know we have to be twice as good. So as a result of that, I am now taking that level playing field and I'm making it as unlevel as I possibly can. And so your legacies get in. Your son from the country club, the daddy is in the country club, he gets in. And all these individuals who have these en routes to access, they get in, and we're going to continue to be shut out, and even more so.
That's a fact. And so let's have a quick history lesson, Jason. So Emancipation Proclamation happens in the mid-1860s.
1863.
Right? Lincoln frees the slaves, right? Civil War still going on. That ends in 1865. One of the first things that blacks did when there was no Department of Education, when we got free,
We built schools.
built schools.
Because it was an outlaw for
schools.
us to be able to read or to teach a slave to read.
Correct.
So we built schools.
That's right. And so your major HBCUs were mostly founded in the late 1860s, early 1870s, because black people recognized the value of education.
And can I just go ahead and just give a high five to our race for real quick?
Yeah.
The reason we were able to build schools is because we understood the land. We knew how to work the land.
Yes.
And so instead of working for a white slave owner, we now got that 40 acres and a mule, and we worked our land and grew our products to such a case that we began to become wealthy. And that's why you had a lot of black people that were getting hung because their land was prospering over the white owners. And so they wanted their land once they saw what they were able to do because they understood the culture.
Absolutely.
They understood the soil. They understood agriculture. And so they became rich and they funded a lot of these schools along with a lot of abolitionists who were very generous towards these schools. They funded these schools.
Which is why you talked about parents earlier. This is where I come back to us, why I get upset about us and how we think, because our money is going to stuff that don't matter.
Don't matter.
Right? Our money is going places to make you look good temporarily. Right? When black folk who ain't have a dime, the first thing that they said when we get free, we're going to build some schools. We're going to educate our kids. They're going to be better off than us. They're going to make sure they're going to know how to read and write. Because even if we don't know how to do it, we know that this is the only way out. And they made sure their kids were educated.
And they knew how to build the school.
Yes.
They didn't go to school for architecture, but they knew how to build the school because they were craftsmen. They knew how to work with their hands.
Correct, Ton. And it wasn't that the only person that kids looked to was an athlete or entertainer. They didn't have all that back then. The
community.
It was the community, right? And so we couldn't do this today. That's the sad part.
No.
And we
got more.
Yeah, we got access to more now than they had. That's what I'm just sitting here like, where did the ball like legitimately get dropped?
We don't even like our neighbors. Come on, let's just keep it real. We don't like our neighbors. We don't like that person because they said this and they done this. We just keep to ourselves, and we're like, for me and for mine, as long as it didn't impact my household, I'm good. And that's why so many people could stay home and not vote, because they're thinking, as long as it don't happen to me, or as long as it don't impact my house. That's where that whole no snitch culture comes from too. As long as you don't do anything to anybody in my house, I'm good. Once you do something to somebody in my house, then I want you to throw the book at them. Right. But everybody else, I don't care.
Right.
And so we have become isolationists.
Yeah.
That's what has occurred in our community.
Yeah, and you could argue, and many people have said this, once integration took place, the rich black people left.
They left.
Went on to integrate with the whites.
That's what they did.
The poor blacks stayed to themselves. That's where you asked, where did this all come from? That's where the gap kicked, because now lower level black kids could not see successful black people on a consistent basis. And now you have class systems, right?
Now, before somebody judge the rich black people for going to other neighborhoods, let's put this plug in there, because you have people who stayed.
You did.
But unfortunately, when they stayed, they now became threatened because you knew they had money, you knew they had access. And so when we look at people like Nipsey Hussle, who stayed and tried to build up his community, who tried to expand resources in his community, you're going to kill that man right there in front of his shop.
Yep.
And he trying to help.
Trying to do right.
But you're going to kill that man right there in front of his shop.
And let me add another piece to this while we hear about college. You know, one of the things that I think systematically hurt black people, you asked about this, is in schools, the guidance counselors went away from trades.
Yeah.
Because now everybody got to go to college. No, they don't. Everybody ain't built for college.
Nope.
Right? I guarantee you're going to need an electrician. You're going to need a plumber.
Yes, Lord.
You need somebody to do something with your carpentry work. All the stuff that...
I just need a good handyman.
Yes, and blacks were very successful at that. And somewhere along the line, these guidance counselors only pushed college.
Well, also, the parents didn't support the different PTA programs, this, that, and the third. When we had SHOP, and when we had fashion marketing, all those things that lend to what you're talking about, the trade,
Home ec, man.
they got rid of that. And the parents didn't say anything. Because I remember enjoying going to shop where I had my T-square, I had my compass, I had AutoCAD, but that junk was gone after 2001.
So then you ask yourself, man, maybe I don't need to spend $30,000-$40,000 a year in college expenses if I just go get a trade. Man, I can make a living, a good living, as an electrician.
And a lot of kids nowadays say, I want to own my own. I want to be an entrepreneur.
Correct.
Or I want to be a content creator. So
Because they don't want to work for
they
nobody
don't
for that
want to
long.
work for anybody.
What is a content creator?
Well, that's another show, as you tell me.
Right.
That's
right.
another show.
So this issue of the Department of Education, I hope we've shed some light on it. That is more than just, it affects every level from pre-K to K to elementary, middle, high school, and college. And without consistent oversight, Ton and Jay, ain't no telling what these states might do, man.
So what can they do then?
I go out here and vote. You better show up at these state and local elections. You better go to these school board meetings and have your face shown in the place.
You ain't going to no school board meeting. But they'll be out at the football field Saturday morning.
Or can stand in line for them Jordans they just
Or
got
they'll be out
last
there
year.
for
It's the
that,
same
too.
one.
Be out there for that too.
Y'all so hardcore.
It's
No,
true.
because it's frustrating. And I know we got to go, but you look at kids, you're looking at pre-K jokers coming to school with $175 shoes.
That's the devil.
They going to outgrow it next week.
That's the devil.
But add to it.
I didn't start spending good money on my son's shoes until he reached my size. He's at my size now. And I was like, if he didn't like them, I'll rock them. Because I'm not going to spend crazy money like that. That's crazy. Your feet still growing?
Exactly. But
You're crazy.
But what's worse is you in line spending $175 on a kid who can't read.
Boy, you better go ahead.
All right.
We got to go.
No, we can't go on that.
You can't read. And you buying him stuff that he can't read.
You are rewarding the foolishness.
Yes.
You are rewarding the
Don't
foolishness.
point at me because Lacey
No,
can
I
read.
ain't saying you.
Lacey
I'm just
can
saying
read.
you're rewarding. I told my son, there's two paths, bro. If you do obedience, you get the rewards. Disobedience, you get the consequences.
Yes.
That's it. But you can't read, and you think I'm going to give you...
I'm getting in line for somebody making D's and F's.
The devil.
Man, we got to go. My pressure up now. I just don't understand
All I know is that-
You in line at Christmas.
The devil.
Line wrapped around the building.
Ain't happening.
And your child can't read,
Ain't
can't
gonna
write,
happen.
don't know math.
Ain't going to happen.
Can't pass the SOL.
Ain't going to happen.
But they look good.
That they sure ain't. They gonna look like they doing. You get these, you gonna look like a child that get these. That's what you gonna
Make
get.
this make sense, man.
Can't make it make sense.
Nah, man. On that note, we got to run, y'all. We out of time. Drop your comments on our social media posts. We love to hear what you got to say. Until next time, be blessed to be a blessing to someone else. Peace.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of The Crew Radio Show. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. We're always looking for great sponsors to support the show. If your company would like to reach our highly engaged audience, please drop us a line at thecrewradioshow757@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you for kicking it with the crew.